It's Jared from Strongroots Farm. We're back today going to talk about cattle and grazing here on our channel. I often get asked questions about rotational grazing and using single strand wire. So do cows fight it? Is it hard to get them taught to use it and move through it? Do they work with it well? Do they respect the wire? Lots of questions come in about this because it doesn't seem like it's a common thing. Or will this cattle, this big 1,200 pound animal, really respect this little piece of white thread? Is how people see it. So we just moved our cattle out to the pasture yesterday. Today was the first day they were back on that wire. They haven't been on single strand wire for over 3 months now. We've been in the barn during the winter. It's all hard fenced around my barn. Well, I have no clue. Did they respect it? Did they remember how to use it? Did they break it down? We're gonna go out and find out, and you're gonna see at the same time I am. And we're also gonna do a move to see if do they know? When I start reeling that thing up, do they come behind me? How apt are they to follow it? Like I say, haven't done it for 3 months, so we might get surprised when we go out here. Come along with us, stick around. We're gonna look at this single strand electric polybraid wire through our rotational grazing. Does it work? All right, so we're out at the pasture. I'm gonna stay on this side of the gate just for a minute so we can talk. I hope you can see some of the wire out there. I will take the camera out and show, but not one cow is on the wrong side of the wire. And so you can't see it, but I set up 4 lines preparing for a mistake. So when I came out the other night to set this up, if they break through the first one because they're using it, getting used to it, they're testing it, they'll put their nose against it, whatever it would be, and then they get shocked and they jump through it and knock it down, and the others can go through. They couldn't go over my whole farm. They just go to the next wire, but not one. We unrolled some hay. It looks like it's pretty cleaned up out here, and there's even a half a roll of hay on the other side, not even 15 feet away from them, and they respected that wire for 24 hours. The spring gate that keeps them from going into this pasture, nice great grass. They're not even testing the spring gate. The middle of the farm has this fence down it. It's just 3 strands. It's not very tall. Maybe my stomach height, I'm 6'4", so it's probably it might be 48 inches tall there at the top wire. But that separates our whole farm in half. And then around our farm, there is permanent fencing. So I do not recommend using this temporary fencing as a perimeter fence. I'll say that over and over again. You need good perimeter fence to have cattle. So what we'll do when we come out, I've got my SpeedRite remote for my SpeedRite charger that we've showed in videos before. I'll turn this on. We'll put it on the wire, and we are hitting at 8.3. Not sure you can see that. Then we hit the off button. That turns it off. So now my fence is off and it's safe for me to touch. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk up here, and I'm explaining it first so that the cows don't stand here and look at me, but I'll put the video camera down, I'll walk up and I'll unroll this, and we'll see if they follow me and just immediately go into the next paddock, if they know what's going on with that string, if they're used to it or not, and how well they respect me in that string. So I might even stop and pause just to kind of see what they do. Let's see what happens. All right, so that was successful. I paused there a few times and they didn't run into me. They were within 2 or 3 feet, but they didn't come underneath the line. Now I did expect to have some little calves go underneath the line. So you can see I have a set of twins out here, and I had 1 early calf. Now the set of twins was early because they're a set of twins, and I think that's just the only reason. I put the bull in June 22nd, and I had my first calf on March 22nd. So like he impregnated her that day. It was perfect, you know, or maybe a few days later and she was a few days early, but had my first calf then. I like to have April calves, so we're coming into calving season. I have 5 more of these to calf, and then the rest are fall. I've got half my herd on fall schedule and half on spring schedule. You can kind of tell where the line is. So we're right here. So this is green new grass. This is where they were yesterday. Lots of patties out here. It looks good from the grazing, and there is a little bit of remnants of the unrolled hay. So they had plenty, but I did notice a few spots on this line where they took a bite. Okay, so this is my line right here, and they took a bite underneath the fence. That's usually a sign that you didn't give them enough, but I think it's just the quality of grass super early in the spring. They had plenty. There's still plenty out here. They're not taking too much. And like I said, they left a remnant of the hay bale that's unrolled. Now you will notice there's a little quarter of a bale there that one little calf is eating on, but the rest of them went to the grass. We could give them more. And so if they're eating underneath the fence, that's a sign you want to give them more. Do we want them to take this much? The problem right now is scours. So it's the first time out for the season. I talked about this in the video yesterday, but we're giving them just a little bit of grass each day and we're unrolling hay. That way they're kind of introducing their guts to fresh new grass. We had pretty good grazing grass. They've only really been off of the ability to graze since mid-February. We had grass around the barn until mid-February, so maybe a month and a half that they haven't had green, some sort of green grass that was stockpiled. But I'm gonna walk around here, look at some cow pies and check for the scours. I don't expect them to hit on the very first day. Good cow pie there. That's the correct consistency, round, wet, but it's all in one pile and it kind of has that divot in the center. That's what we're looking for. This one here and that one there, a little bit dry, right? They didn't kind of get that circle patty, not enough protein, a little bit of high carbs. They were on hay the day prior only, so that's kind of to be expected. This is what I'm talking about, remnants of unrolled hay. So there's still some here that they could eat. They took the best and left a little bit. This is not enough to kill the grass underneath of it. So if they don't come back and clean this up, it's not going to affect our pastures at all. They did clean that up fairly well. My opinion, unrolling hay, this is the same amount that you would lose in the bottom of a hay ring versus unrolling it on a pasture, and it's already out here and it's spread out. So it's not in a pile to rot. I think they'll come back and clean some of this up because there's not as much unrolled hay today. I left that quarter of a bale, then I start unrolling after that. Lastly, I'm checking them all, looking, no big issues. They are back grazing though, okay? So I don't usually like to let them back graze, especially in the spring when it's wet, and it has been very wet here. There was some standing water yesterday that's now gone. It was supposed to rain a lot last night. We only got a 1/10, so that's good. But they're back grazing because of this water. I have it, so I'm using it. I could put a hose down and go down 50 feet and let them put a water somewhere else, but it's so easy for me. I'm kind of cheating and letting them back graze. I also could put that string back up and to the other side of this water and prevent them to come back here where they grazed, but I would like them to clean up the little bit of remnants that's left if they want to eat that. Last thing again is we're taking the remote, coming back over to our fence, putting it back on. We have no hits. Turn it on. We're hitting 8.4, and it looks like we have 1 amp of loss. So an amp of loss is not enough for me to go and find a fault. That is a ground fault somewhere. Usually if I get over 10 or 12 amps of loss, I'm looking for a ground fault. We did that in the late fall, so everything's pretty good around here. And that would trigger me though, that somewhere at the back of my property, a tree has fallen that I don't know about. Something's hitting the fence somewhere to ground it out, and it would show me 20, 30, 50, a tree falling would be 40 or 50 amps on this, and it would show me the arrow where it's going. So I would go and look for that, but our fence is strong, it's good, no loss, that's all good. Just to kind of show you my setup here, got a 55, or this may even be a 30-gallon drum. Cut the top off of it, got some straps to keep it in our gator here. That's where we put our stakes in. So we have these thin Fiberglass stakes. We have some O'Brien and some TSC step-in white stakes, or these are black. I prefer the blue. I just find that white is pretty brittle in the sun and black heats up and bends over, so blue is kind of like the good middle ground. And then we have these pigtail, which are my favorite, but I only use them every other stake. Typically, we're gonna have several reels back here. Usually I only have 1 or 2 reels ahead of them and 1 behind them. But we'll always keep a couple reels in here, or extra reels, but they're all out right now. And then we've got our fencing bucket. I did some plumbing, so I've got a thing of towels that doesn't typically stay in there, but anything to fix a fence, a scrub brush to clean our waters if we need to do that, or a tank when we're moving it, screwdrivers, all that kind of stuff to fix fittings. There's extra hose clamps down in there in case a hose clamp would come off of a hose. There's a flashlight, there's ratchets, there's all kinds of stuff in this. Anything I have ever used to fix fence, I kind of keep in this bucket and carry it around with me. A hammer, I've got a pill bottle full of staples for fence. So I just keep it with me, and if I see something wrong, I fix it right when I'm there. And I'm not sure you noticed this or not, how we hook our temporary fence up to our hot wires. Some people just wrap it around the wire and hang their reel there. I find that I like the alligator clips better. It's the simple, same poly braid that we use. It's just a Super 9 poly braid from Powerflex fence. And I got some battery clamps off Amazon. And I got about, I don't know, 18, 20 inches of that poly braid between them. I've probably got 6 or 8 of these that clip on my gator. We cook 1 on the hot fence, 1 on the rope fence, the poly braid fence. That way I can take this off and I know the fence is dead. And then this ensures that I just find I get better connection with this than I do wrapping that around the hot wire. So this is what we use. Not everybody does it. It's just what we do. So we've shut our gate back. You noticed we came through another gate if you were watching the time lapse there, if it caught that. So there's 2 hard fences between our calves, cows, steers, everything we have, our herd here, and the road. So the road is out that way, and we have 2. Now, we're ditching over here if you've been watching and follow along. So there will eventually be another perimeter fence over here, and I'll be able to leave one of these gates open. The one I come in and out the most, I can leave open when I get that fence built back. But I like to have 2 perimeter fences. I have an alleyway around. That protects me. So if they just happen to bust through a fence, if a gate happens to get left open, which it has before, if they break through the poly, I'm double protected for keeping them on my farm. Now, there are places on my farm. There's a section of about 800 feet that perimeter fence is the only perimeter fence. It is the actual perimeter fence of the farm, but we've got a lot of other stuff hard fenced off here, and then we use a temporary fence to kind of move in circles into different paddocks, but they're always in with permanent fencing. If it wasn't for the video, that would have took us 5 minutes to move calves for the day, cows for the day. We're gonna head back to the shop. Stopped here real quick as we're headed back to the shop just to show you this. So every one of those cows and calves and everything that we have out there at some point in their life on this farm has been trained and had time against that fence, other than those 3 brand new calves. So they've all seen that before. It's not like this is just day 1 and they know, right? They've all had time to be trained for it. And that's why I'm showing you this pen. So I've got this pen right here. It's just a section of the farm that's fenced off. We do have a heavy use feed pad over here. They're mobile pig pen, birdhouses, all the stuff. But this pen is what I'm talking about. So this is probably a ½ acre, maybe 0.4 of an acre, and it's hard fenced all the way around it with a hot bumper wire, and it has this big gate here, and without making you dizzy, you can see this comes up my driveway. So if I was to buy a calf, cow, whatever I'm buying, I have people back in, or I back my trailer in right against this gate, and this is my unloading pen. I could unload over at our chute over on the other side of the barn, but I really like this because it's really wide. The trailer backs up here and they see this big open square and they come out, right? The other thing that's convenient about having something like this is training. So you bring a brand new cow, calf home, you need to train them to that single strand wiring, and that's what I use this pin for. Okay, it's just a training pin. We graze it as a paddock just like anything else. But what I'll do is before I unload them, actually when I know they're coming, I put 1 wire across there, right? And there's a gate up here. I go diagonal from that gate diagonally over to this side of the fence. It still allows them to eat grass here and then go into where the water is, but I train them. And I use all of my old broken stakes. So the stakes that the foot pops off, or maybe the top popped off of one, I keep them separate. And when we're training calves, I put them in here because they're gonna break them. They're gonna break one or two, they're gonna get shocked. It happens every time that I bring something home, they break one of those stakes. And so at least I'm having them break the already broken stakes. I go back out, I shoe them to the correct side, I put the fence back up. Usually that's all it takes for one or two to figure it out. And then they stay against it for a day. And then the next day, I'll move that fence and let them go around it, and I'll set it up where they've already eaten, and then they get another day of training. On the other side of that, there's another hard fence pen. It is about 1.5 acres to 2 acres. If I feel they still need more time away from the herd and more time in training, I will graze those new animals through that pen, okay? This gives them a few days to calm down. This pen also connects to our back sorting system. So once I bring them home, if I need to tag them, if I need to, worm them, whatever I would do in that situation, we can do that right from here. But it's important to have a training pen if you're gonna plan for them to stay in with single strand wiring. Well, there you have it. That is testing out our single strand and how we start the spring off, and do they respect it, and does it work? Yes, it works very, very well. I will tell you, buying cheap wire does not help you. Go ahead and spend just a little bit more and order a big roll from powerflexfence.com. It'll be down in the description. And I use the Power Super 9 Polybraid. Super 9 Polybraid. Reels, stakes, they're all about the same. I do like a Gallagher reel, but a good reel that reels at 3 times speed. So you make one crank and it makes 3 is worth its weight in gold. Speeds the job up. This is where they came from, right? The cows had access to the pastures. They could go out anytime, but it's been all winter long. We have deep bedding. It's about 2.5 feet deep in here now, and it's kind of mucky out here. I'll take the bucket tractor and pile that up on our compost pile, and I'll push all this up into the barn, and then our pigs come out here. If you haven't seen this before, those blue gates over there, they were old racking from like a Walmart, and we laid them on their side and we welded pig wire to it, and then we put connections like a ring gate would have, or sometimes called corral gates, like these gates here. So we put that bolt connection and they connect together, and that's what we're going to put in here. So I have a connection over here at this post, and then another one right here at this post. We'll put those across there, and we let the pigs in there now, in on top of that deep bedding. There's no corn in it. We do not feed grain, so nothing came out the rear end of the cows. It's just simply deep bedding and manure, and we put the pigs on top of it, and they root around and they play, and in 2 months, that will be black gold. Now, I'm not talking about oil, I'm talking about compost. This makes great compost when you put the pigs back in on it, and our compost pile over there will compost down. We may turn it one time. We'll spread that all on the field. There you have it. Hope that video helped you. Got some work to do. We're back in the shop, going to get some stuff done. Also have to go to the house that we're remodeling and work over there. That is our video for today. So if this is your first time, please like and subscribe. Come along with us. We have lots of videos like this. Comment down below. Let me know what you would like to see. We get back into grazing. We start moving along. What are the things you're having trouble with? What equipment, tools would you like to see that we use? I do try to do Friday videos and show you some of the tools and equipment. I'll be glad to put one of those together for you. Comment down below. Let me know if you do something different. Share that with our community on this channel. Once again, I'm Jared from Strong Roots Farm. Thanks for watching. Until next time.